Is my volume good enough?
Hello, everybody. Welcome, everybody. We are welcoming the audience on YouTube. We are welcoming those on Facebook. This is another session we're having on current affairs, and we're going to be talking with a special program with one of the presidential aspirants for the position of Nigerian presidency. And so the person we're having right now is actually, at least to the best of my knowledge, is going to be the youngest aspirant to the position of to be the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So he is a young man based in the US, and I would like you, before I introduce him to you right now, I would like you to go ahead and share this message with your friends and family members. So share. Go and invite your friends. Go and tag them. Your friends everywhere on Facebook, go and send out the message to them that they could join us on Facebook or on YouTube, and go and share it in the inboxes, with the inbox of your friends and family members, and go and tag and put in the groups, in the Facebook groups as well. So let's go and invite as many people as possible. This is going to be, I've been looking forward to this particular conversation because I want to hear what this new generation aspirants have that is different from what the old brigade bring to the table. So here we go. Mr. Chike.
Yes, sir.
Chike Ukaegbu. Ukaegbu. Okay. Yeah. Chike Ukaegbu. Now, Chike Ukaegbu, you are based in the United States of America, but not too many people know you yet because you've not been on the Nigerian political scene. Could you tell us who is Chike Ukaegbu?
Wonderful. I'll sort of give a little history insights here. So yes. I was born in Owerri.
All right.
Home, June 12, 1983. After which we moved to Aba. I'm one of 6 children.
Okay.
The second son, but the 4th child. We moved to Aba, where I went to school from kindergarten all the way through to primary 6. In JS1, I did my JS1 to 3 at FGC Port Harcourt in Lumokoro, and then came back to Aba to do my senior secondary school at Dorothy International Secondary School. After which, I went to University of Lagos to study industrial chemistry for 2 years before coming out to the US in 2002. Now, in the United States, I went to City College of New York, where I majored in biomedical engineering. So I'm a biomedical engineer.
Okay.
But in my second year, I also got into a public policy fellowship, a Colin Powell Leadership and Public Policy Fellowship. Where I decided to focus on youth disconnection. Because at the time, I was in an environment in Harlem where I saw young people like me at the time who were out of school and out of work, and I sort of wanted to find out the reasons why. So I spent my 3 years as a fellow doing research on public policy and how to re-engage, understand the problems of disconnection, and to re-engage young people into society. Minored in musical theater, so studied biomedical engineering, minored in musical theater. I enjoy the arts. And then after graduation, I started teaching at City College. I taught maths for 7 years at City College, while also running a nonprofit which I co-founded with a friend of mine called ReLife. And the mission of ReLife was to empower disconnected and at-risk youth through tech, education, and entrepreneurship. We did that until 2014, and in 2015 launched Startup 52, which is the first diversity-focused tech accelerator in New York City. And ever since, I've been doing that.
The first, did you say the first?
Diversity-focused tech accelerator. in New York.
Diversity, when you talk about diversity, you're talking about ethnic diversity or technology diversity?
It's gender diversity. So our mission really is to create better access to resources and capital for founders from what we call untapped communities.
Okay.
So people of color, women, seniors, veterans, disabled founders, immigrants, and so on and so forth. So we usually say, if you feel like you don't belong, you actually belong with us, right?
Okay.
And the 3-month intensive program that teaches founders how to
How
be
many
better.
years ago did you say you moved to the US?
I moved in 2002, 16 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but, you know, along the way as well, yeah, I studied executive leadership and management at Cornell. I took MBA courses at UPenn, and I studied venture capital and investments at Stanford. So I pretty much, in my opinion, have a very broad array of diversified background that, in my opinion, is relevant to what Nigeria needs today. And for the past 10, 12 years, have been focused on empowerment of untapped and disconnected communities through tech, education, and entrepreneurship.
But what prompted you? What prompted you to want to run as the president of Nigeria? Why don't you? Well, that is the question that they normally ask the young aspirants. Why don't you start as a local government, member, or as a local government chairman, or as a state representative, or state senator, or something like that, or even as national senator and national representative? Why direct going to presidency?
All right. So let me tell you exactly how it came about, right? So sometimes people think, well, I've heard, people say, well, you need 4 years to start. This journey, this movement, actually started in April, end of April. What happened was last year, I had gotten to the point where I was frustrated, just like many other Nigerians, about our nation, and decided I was going to get involved. Now, with that decision, I said, well, what I can do is I'm very versed. My background is more in technology. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a tech platform. I'll find the best candidate and I will work with them, right? I'll reach out to them and help them develop a tech platform for the race. Now, did that, found my one candidate. I'm not going to mention who at the time, and reached out, but I got nothing back in response. During conversation with a couple other friends, one of them said, well, instead of finding one candidate and working with them, maybe what you need to do is create a platform and make all of the candidates pledge to adopting that, so that regardless of who wins, you already have this platform that they can adopt, and maybe they would actually, call upon you to help them do that. I'm like, that's a better plan. So I started expanding on the platform. We did that. Then in April, I was invited to speak at the U.S. Nigeria Investment Summit in D.C. And after that conference, of course, you get to meet a lot of people. I came back to New York, and one of the young men that I met from Lagos, he was from the Lagos delegation, reached out to me and said, hey, we're on our way back to Lagos, but we're going to be in New York for 2 days. I would like to sort of sit down with you. So I'm like, sure, fine. So when we met, it was him, myself, and 3 of my friends. Of course, we started talking about politics in Nigeria. And he goes, well, the truth is, he doesn't really, there are no exciting candidates to him. A bunch of them have approached him, but his heart is not with any of them. And in fact, he thinks Buhari is going to win again. So we're like, well, we have to make sure that does not happen. So I told him what happened, how I reached out to this candidate and I got nothing in return. And he goes, actually, the reason why I asked to meet with you was after I heard you speak, I did some research into your background. And I love the things you're working on, the tech, education, and entrepreneurship. I think that's actually what our nation needs. I think you should run. I'm like, dude, you have to be crazy. It doesn't run. I'm not even sure what the requirements are, but I'm sure, you have to be at least 40. And he goes, yeah, except that there's a bill in the House now, the Not Too Young to Run bill, that actually drops the age to 35. I'm like, well, I turned 35 in June. He goes, exactly. But you know, with we sat down, I'm like, well, security issues, funding issues, you know, violence and all that. He goes, listen, if you're gonna do this, let's do this just to elevate the conversation or the consciousness of the people around these things so that we know how to ask the right questions of our leaders. I said, okay, give me a couple of days to think, to pray about this and think about it. So I went home and I, you know, did my praying, thought about it, and decided, well, maybe 4 years from now will be better, right? But I didn't have peace about that decision. So I called my father and I said, Dad, look at what's going on.
Is your dad based in Nigeria?
He's in Nigeria, yes.
Okay.
So he's a retired civil servant as well. So I said, this is what's going on. By then, this guy had gone back to Nigeria. I said, this young gentleman that I met at this conference said this. And I was hoping that my father would discourage me from doing it. And he goes, well, you know, if you can answer 3 questions, then I don't think it's a bad idea. I think our nation needs, you know, something different, a different direction. And he goes, 1, capital, 2, security, and 3, the fact that you're not married, right? So I said, well, the young man is in Lagos right now. I can connect you guys to have a conversation. So they did. And you know, whatever it was he told my father that convinced my father, I do not know. But when we got on the phone and we talked, he goes, listen, now is the time, right? You have to do this. So my father's like, well, let's talk to the family. I said, no, I need about 3 weeks, you know, to pray about this, to make sure that I really wanted to do this. So I started doing my research. Of course, we already knew all the problems that Nigeria had. And based on the experience you learned from college on research and solving problems, it was important that I understood the problems at home before postulating any solutions. So we did that. I think I shared the link, a Google Doc with your people, as to the 4 main reasons. By the time I gathered all my information without going into too much detail, there were 4 things that were important to me.
Yes,
1,
I'm familiar with them, but our audience are not. So please go ahead.
Sure. So the first one is a sense of hopelessness, right? Like I mentioned, my parents are retirees. Only 3% of Nigeria's population is over 65. And for the past about 16, 17 months have not been paid their pensions. And as frustrating that is, I mean, like I said, I'm one of 6, and we're actually in 5 countries. So once in a while, you know, we scrape up the little we have and we send home to my parents to survive. But then when you think about those who who do not have the same opportunity, who do not have children that can scrape together to send to them, you start to wonder, how do our people survive, right? You have someone who have spent 30, 40 years of their lives, you know, dedicated to making sure that our nation moves forward. The least we can do is make sure we take care of them, right? So when you think about the old grandmothers, or you know, the teachers and the policemen and people who work and are not getting paid, how are people feeding? How are people paying bills? How are people taking care of their health, right? You start to wonder what sort of wickedness, you know, has engulfed our leaders. So for me, it was that lack of compassion, that lack of empathy in understanding that people need to survive, right? So I concluded that we have a government that does not understand the basic responsibilities of government, which is to provide and to protect its citizens. So that was one. The second one is, you know, like I said, I'm in tech, right? And what we do with the accelerator is we get applications from over 50 countries for founders who want to be part of it. And when you read these applications and start to see how people are thinking, right?
Application for jobs or what?
No, to be a part of the program. So the acceleration program is an intensive 3-month program where we train founders, tech founders, and help them. We connect them to mentors, advisors, investors, service providers, resources, pretty much,
Okay.
to help them grow. But there's an application process.
Okay.
And I tell people that's the part I enjoy the most, reading those applications, because you get to see how people think, right? You get applications of people working on flying cars and drones and blockchains and all of these great technologies. And you start to wonder what's going on back home. right? The other thing is,
so you are talking about a lot of these applications are coming from Nigeria with great ideas?
not just Nigeria, from around the world, from at least 50 countries, yeah. But then, you know, for a global universe moving into the fourth industrial revolution, right? Artificial intelligence, blockchain, and all that. I'm a proponent for diversity and inclusion, and there's so much, you know, as to the people who are developing these technologies, doing it with the same inherent biases that they have, right? And this led to another point, but let me expound on it a little bit. Now, for people who code artificial intelligence or machine learning and all that, there has been studies that have proven that they do that with the same inherent biases they have. And everybody knows that globally, people of African descent tend to be the most vulnerable populations when it comes to discrimination. Now, which means that we are walking into a future where you're not only now facing the biases of humans, but we may also be facing the biases of these machines and robots that are supposed to take over. The reason why that is actually scary is the fact that by 2029, it is projected that machine intelligence will actually supersede human intelligence. So what happens to Africa if we live in a world where humans who are not like us or who do not care about us and machines who do not care about us, you know, are now against us pretty much, right? So for me, it's important that Africa becomes aware of that possible future. And the fact that we have a population of more than 1.2 billion people, there is absolutely no reason why we should not be leading the artificial intelligence generation or revolution. So that was the second point. This dystopian future that we are headed to, if we do not wake up to realize that it's important to start to focus on tech. And our leaders right now don't have that vision or sense of urgency to understand that importance. That was the second one. The third one was the disconnect between, you know, Nigeria and the diaspora, right? So I tell people, as a Nigerian in Nigeria, right, there were so many hopes, there were so many passions and dreams that I had as a child before I came to America. But being out in America for the last 16 years have also given me a different perspective to understand quality of life and how to leverage opportunities and what needs to be done to make sure that we create opportunities for others, right? Which are possible blind spots that many at home may not have because they have not been exposed to the society at large or to the globe at large. So the solutions to moving our nation forward lies at the intersection of a collaboration between those at home and those in the diaspora. But if we don't know how to incentivize those in the diaspora, we end up building up other nations and building up other people and forgetting about our home. There's this mass exodus happening at home now. Those who have the abilities and the finances are leaving, right? In fact, Canada had to call the US to beg them to stop giving Nigerians visa at home because Nigerians come to the US and don't walk to the Canadian border to file for asylum. Now, while the others who cannot afford that process try to go through the Sahara Desert to the Mediterranean to go into Europe. So we have this brain drain that's happening because we have a nation or we have leaders who do not understand the importance of retaining intellectual capacity at home. And then the fourth one is the fact that Nigeria is the largest black nation in the world. The mantle of leadership to advocate against discrimination for people of color globally falls on us. And because we're not doing that, because we're not living up to that, all of the discriminations and the injustices, the police brutalities and all of that is going on, and nobody's speaking up for it. So I believe that Nigeria, as a superpower, that mantle falls on her, but our leaders don't get that. So those four things, the sense of hopelessness, the lack of vision and urgency from our leaders, the disconnect between the citizens at home and the diaspora, and of course that global discrimination against people of color were some of the reasons why I decided it was important. Because when I looked at all of the candidates, it seemed like they were all saying the same thing, right? They all regurgitated or recycled the same problems they believe that Nigeria has, which every 4 years we hear over and over and over and over again. You get the same manifestos, you get the same, talking points, but nothing is actually getting done. So yeah, and of course, when you look at the qualifications as well, right now I believe I am actually one of the most qualified candidates who's running regardless of age. And in fact, in history, if you look at all of our presidents and their educational qualifications and exposure, I think I can match up to the best of the best right now. So why not?
What's your educational qualification?
So I'm a biomedical engineer. I've done a lot as well in the arts, media, theater, and all that. I was an educator at the college level for 7 years. I'm an entrepreneur. I've founded a bunch of businesses. I've helped people found businesses as well. I have exposure with leadership. I have an executive certificate from Cornell University. I'm exposed to the business environment, venture capital and investments as well. So I have a diverse background that's relevant to leadership that Nigeria needs today. So when people say, well, why didn't you start small? To me, it's one of two things. It's one, trying to minimize someone's dreams. You should never tell someone to start small. But two, that's actually asking me to dive into a process that we all know and believe is corrupt, right? So why ask me to go through a process where tomorrow you will call me one of them if I know that I can tackle at the head, if I can tackle some of the problems that we need and solutions at the head.
Now, but most of those 4 objectives that you listed right now, they are things that I would think that you could actually attain or achieve without necessarily becoming a president. Both you can connect and put up a project or a mechanism of resolving the problem of hunger and desperation and poverty. The same thing you can do in regards to the diaspora or the image of Africa, and everything that you have mentioned. Why do you think you need to be a president to bring them, to pass?
Two things. Everything I've mentioned I'm already doing right now, right? So my brother runs a software development agency in Aba, and I partner with him to do that. I launched a scholarship program in 2014 about as well. When it comes to image, I tell people, sometimes people think I'm American. I'm not. I've only had a Nigerian passport. And part of the reason why I did that is, people are like, well, it delays you when you have to apply for visas. I said, no, that's because I need to change the perception that people have about Nigerians. Right? When you see me with my green passport and you can tell that this is not a corrupt person or a scam artist or whatever, it helps to change that perception. So everything I've talked about, I'm already doing. The reason why this is important on a larger scale is I know that there are so many Nigerians like me who are better than I am, who can benefit from the opportunities that I've been able to get. And I alone, or even with the capacity that I have right now, with all of the work that I do, will not be able to achieve that on a large scale. There is no reason why Nigeria, with all of its resources, with all of its brain power, should be where it is today. So going for the head gives me that ability to work with Nigerians to come up with better solutions to improve on the conditions of living or the quality of life, but also to start to lead Africa and the world from a global point of view. So anyone can do anything without being a president, but the seat of the presidency gives you more leverage to do stuff on a larger scale, which is what we need right now.
I heard that your candidacy is generating a lot of vibe and a lot of news, attracting some attention. Somebody said you had this, my team told me this, that you had an interview with CNN. And yes. I think they have it right now on the screen. They are showing you talking to CNN. How did you get there? Is because you will be the first candidate from Nigeria to be interviewed by CNN, if that is really the case.
Oh wow. Well, so here's the thing. I think part of the advantage I have is the fact that I have a network of people I've been able to build in this last 10 years, a network of just as bright-minded and forward-thinking people. That when I said, hey, I want to run, right? Sometimes people look at the insurmountable challenge they think it is. We see opportunity, right? And what it takes is leveraging the networks you have to do what you want to do. So for us, it was about getting the global attention to the process in Nigeria to help minimize, the risk of violence, the risk of election rigging, but to also inspire other young people to know that they can do it. I'm like, for every 31-year-old, in 4 years' time, you will be qualified to run for the seat of the president. And it's important that we start to think that way, because I think part of the problem we've had is, for many of us who are millennials, all of our lives, for instance, the current president was the head of state the year that I was born. He took over as a head of state the year that I was born. So we've seen the same people over and over again. Your generation, however, though, saw some of them when they were younger, right? So Gowon was 31 when he became head of state. General Obasanjo, I think, was 38 or 39. One other person as well was in his 30s when they took over. So your generation was able to see that. Our generation did not. We've seen the same people recycled over and over and over again. So for a 21-year-old who is thinking about school without thinking about politics or bettering their nation, at least now they know that in 4 years' time, they will be old enough or qualified to run for House of Rep. I think the excitement about my candidacy is the fact that it starts to make young people think about the possibilities, the things that we can do without limiting ourselves based on the environment that we've grown up in, or all of the things that we are meant to believe, or the mindset or the opinion that, oh, you're too young, or you can't do it, or you don't have the ability to do this. No, you can do it if you set your mind to it. So yeah, that's I'm excited about that.
Will you describe can you describe to us? You might need to put off your. We have your. You need to. I think you have something on. Do you?
No, I don't.
Okay, good. You might need to. I mean, can you describe to us what is your understanding of being a president? For example, Barack Obama was, a historical personality, a historical president, and he used IT technology to win the election to a large extent.
Right.
So maybe you could do the same thing in Nigeria. But what does it mean to you, the position of a president? The position. Let's say you become the president of Nigeria. What does it mean? What do you envisage? What do you see? What do you imagine that I am the chief executive of this country? I'm the president. So what is that? What does that entail to you in your mind? What does being a president mean to you?
200 million lives depend on me, which is not a joke, which is not, a responsibility that I can take for granted, right? It means understanding that compassion is important. It means understanding that dialogue is important. It means understanding that vision is important. I mean, about 70% of our population is under 35, which means in another 30 years, we will still be around, right? It's making sure that my children, that my generation, the generation after me, my children, have a future they can walk into without the problems that we are facing today. So being a president means being a leader who understands the heartbeat of the nation. And that heartbeat is, if there is strife, you're taking the initiative to understand what's going on. Part of the problem we have today in our nation is people jump the gun, right, in making certain decisions. It's, Band-Aid solutions. We tend to jump to Band-Aid solutions instead of solving real problems. And I think that's costing us a lot. That's costing us our nationalism. I believe nation should come before tribe, but we have leaders that have, bought into or have fueled individualism that keeps on dividing and breaking us, and creating strife. So it's important to understand that as a leader, you are a servant first, a servant who understands the heartbeat of the people, and sometimes you have to, not sometimes, you always have to make, powerful decisions that will affect people's lives. Understanding the gravity of that responsibility is extremely important.
Now, I'm going to pull your leg a little bit here. I want you to tell me 10 issues that a Nigerian president would need to deal with.
10 issues.
10 of them.
Okay.
Not the 4. You can include the 4 you mentioned, but not just those ones. Those are your objectives. But right now, I'm seeing Nigeria before me. All the states, all the regions, all the issues, the military, the police, the corruption, the economy. Yeah, I need 10.
Okay. So federalism, we need to practice real federalism.
Okay.
Education, we need to enhance our educational system. Import and exportation, or manufacturing, we need manufacturing. Power, we need power. Security is extremely important. Entrepreneurship, we need to empower that. Strife, religious strife, we need to take care of that. Ethnic strife, we need to take care of that. Corruption, we need to take care of that. And nationalism, we need to take care of that. That's 10.
Is there any difference between nationalism and ethnic strifes?
Yes. Well, so ethnic strife is violence, is terrorism. Boko Haram, or there's several different ways that you can look at that. Individualism or nationalism is understanding or recognizing those moments that bring us together, like football does, like entertainment does, and leveraging on those to drive unity amongst the people. You could be like, I'm an Igbo boy. I'm proud to be Igbo, but I'm also proud to be Nigerian, just like I'm proud to be African and I'm proud to be black, right? That's the global.
What will you tell? I have some friends who are proponents of IPO independence. IPOD, yeah, Biafra. Yeah. What will you tell? Those people will tell me, and when they saw me bringing you on board, they wrote some comments to me and said that guy is a betrayer. He's betraying the cause. He's standing for Nigeria. So they think that you are a betrayer. That you are, What will you tell a young man like that? I understand you. I think that it's mistaken or it's missing the point. And these people are also in the diaspora. But that is there are some group of people like that who say, forget about Nigeria. We are going to divide Nigeria. And there are some Yoruba people like that too. Some young people in Yoruba who want to do that. But but what will you say? Because you say you are, even though you are Igbo, but you see yourself as a Nigerian. How will you address that?
Let me paint it from a global perspective, right? So I tell people, I left Nigeria as an Igbo boy. I arrived in America as a black man. Now,
black man?
Yes.
Not a Nigerian.
No. Let me explain. Because when I got to America, America labeled me black, an identity that I knew nothing about. Right? And that became an identity that I had to struggle for several years to define. Because in the American society, being black comes with several negative connotations or stigmas and stereotypes, right? So the color of your skin deprives you of certain things. The color of your skin makes you a threat to people. The color of your skin, means you're subpar. The color of your skin means, you're a thug or something like that. And these were identities that I knew nothing about before arriving.
So nobody was calling you Igbo boy or something, or Nigerian even?
No.
Or even an African?
Exactly, right? So I had finished teaching a class at City College once, 3 in the afternoon. I had my laptop. I was running to go pick up a rental car. And by the time I got to the end of the road, I had been cornered by 3 cop cars. And they came out and they said, someone called them saying that someone is running with a stolen laptop. It was 3 in the afternoon. I showed them my faculty ID. I had to put in my password in the laptop to prove to them that it was mine. And at that point, that I was traumatized by that experience, because I stood there in the middle of the road and I said, if these guys were going to shoot me, they're not asking me if I'm African or Nigerian. All they see is a black man whose life has no value. That was the beginning of the global mindset. Now, once I understood that, right, once I understood that, it became important for me to understand the pains and the struggles of other people going through that same experience. All of a sudden, now I understood the pain that African Americans go through when a black boy is shot in the street for nothing, because that can also be me, right? So that gave me a whole different appreciation of this global perspective that I now had. Now, same thing with being African. I realized that I am African even before I am Nigerian, because when we look at our continent, the way it's painted, the way public media, Western media paints us, it's an African thing. It's poor, it's destitute, it's corrupt. You get what I mean?
Yep.
Same thing when we talk about Nigeria. Now, when people say Biafra, oh, we need to break out, we need to do this, we need to do that. I said, look at North America. North America is the continent of 3 nations. United States, Canada, Mexico.
Time and time again,
that's
Nigerians
it.
have shown
Africa
given the right
is a continent of 54 nations.
a nurturing environment.
There is power
frankly,
in togetherness. We're stronger together.
Founder of Hotel
Now, Nigeria today is the largest black nation because we are one unit.
Olurotimi Badaro, the first and
Now,
only
when Ahmed Musa scored the 2 goals against Iceland,
and then you have Chinemelu.
there was no Nigerian saying, oh, he's from Nigeria, I'm from Biafra. No, we were all Nigerians in that moment.
Nigerians who have shown that
In fact,
innovation, technology,
even beyond
education,
just Nigerians saying that, I had friends from the Caribbean who were like, yeah, of Nigeria.
the first
Because
software
every other
development
person
training
sees the
agencies
power we
in
have
Nigeria,
when we're
of which
together.
I'm a board member.
Nigerians are the most
founded by
educated
Chibueze,
subgroup
my
of
brother.
people in the United States,
Then
and I'm sure in the diaspora as well.
grooms software
The moment we
development
break
craftsmen.
all of those positive
Meeting
things that we
onto
can
an
build
11-year-old
on,
primary
we start to
5
lose.
student
So
was
no,
able to
I am not in support. I'm a very proud Igbo boy, but I am also very proud of being Nigerian. I am Nigerian before I am Igbo.
Well, some people would disagree with that, because why should you be Nigerian before you are Igbo? Some people will say maybe you are Igbo then Nigerian.
No, so I think it's the other way around, because what happens is when we place self first before we, when we place I before we, then we find it difficult to understand the collective, to understand the importance of building our nation together.
Oh,
Right?
okay. So we emphasize tribalism again, right?
Exactly. Yes.
All right.
So instead of becoming the president and looking for merit-based and using a merit-based system to empower people, I start to look for, okay, where are the Igbo people that I can put here? And that causes strife. That's part of the problem we have now. But when you look at our nation as one, someone told me, well, don't you know the Hausas have another 4 years before it can cut to the Igbos? I'm like, they've been saying that for 58 years. That's 1. 2, no. It should be the most qualified should be there, regardless of where you're from. There are 520 languages in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Some of us can name 10.
Yeah. Now, but so let me tell you just the way it is. Some people who have seen your advert that we are bringing you on said the guy must be delusional. So why do they think you are delusional? Number one, I'm going to be giving them out to you one by one. Number one, how does he hope to win the presidency not even moving to Nigeria? So they gave me example of other guys, like another Nigerian that's living in America that moved back to Nigeria to campaign. But they said they have not even seen you or heard of you on the ground. Well, how do you answer that one? That is the first one. I'm going to mention others as you answer one by one.
Okay, so here's the thing. I love that question. I tell people the Not Too Young to Run bill was signed in May, right? if I packed up my stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm going back to Nigeria right now. And I got to Nigeria and said, I'm running for president. No press would take me seriously. Not even you. Like nobody would take me seriously, right?
Yeah.
So strategy is extremely important. I've founded businesses, and I know that before you launch something, it's important to do your homework. It's important to plan. Now, our strategy was this. You announce out here, you get that global interest, reputation, that would get Nigerians interested. Just like you mentioned, I'm the only candidate who's gone on CNN.
Yeah.
And that's why that interview opened a lot of doors. Of course, as a Christian, I know it's the Lord. But the goal was I announced June 28th, spend July getting that international credibility that you need, right? Then when I get back home, I'm moving back next month. You know, I'm not going to run for president from the US. I'm moving back next month. And once I do that, is the grassroots. But it was important that I have this opportunity to talk to you so that the 5 million viewers that you have can get to know me. So yeah, that's fine. And then that's one, too. I told my team before we announced, I said, I know I cannot do politics like the Nigerian politician. We will never beat them. What we have going for us is everything that we do, technology, education, and entrepreneurship, right? So how do we make sure we use this to impact lives? I don't want to go do rallies and call people and they scream, oh, now is our time. No. I told them, I said, listen, every engagement we have, every single person who shows up should leave there better than they were before they came. So let's think outside the box, because inside the box.
No, how would they leave better than they came?
You're making me reveal all my strategy.
Oh, okay.
But no, it's like, you know, entrepreneurship.
No, I just meant to say, are they going to leave better than they came in terms of mood? You're going to give them you're going to tell them some word that will just give them good mood. Or you are going to do something practical, because this is important for people to know, so that they know they are coming. They want to meet with you because they are going to get something practical, or they are just going to hear some good sounds, some good language, some good grammar that will...
No, I speak Pidgin, and Igbo very well. So don't let the grammar, be too much. I can literally break down and start to speak Pidgin English if that's what they want to hear right now, sir. Right? So the point is, for me, every interaction I want to do is I've spent 10, 12 years, teaching people how to start businesses, teaching people to better their lives. That's the same thing I want to take back home, right? You're hungry, let's feed you first. But instead of just feeding you, how do we teach you how to feed yourself, right? So what do you need to know? What do you need to learn? How do you need to do it and do it right? So how much do you have? If I give you 10,000 Naira today, what business can you start with 10,000 Naira? That's what I want to do, So engage in a practical way that make people, so that when you call people back, they know that they bring their brother, they bring their sister, they bring their relatives and say, listen, we know that when we sit down with this young person, we're going to get something that will change our lives for the better. That's what I want to do.
Okay, but, is that a little bit of exaggeration, though, that everyone you meet?
Well, so when I mean everyone, everyone who comes in contact with us, right? So it's the way we're planning our grassroots movement. There will be small events, there will be the larger events as well. But we want to make sure that even for the larger ones, that they're preceded with, either workshops or seminars or stuff like that, that gives everybody the opportunity to learn. And even if you're not there, that's the power of social media. If we record the stuff and put it out, you learn. You find ways to engage us. Find the people in your community that are part of the team and work with them to learn, to benefit from the same resources that we have to bring to the table. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, that would mean doing things totally different from Nigerians doing. But anyway, the next thing people talk about when they say that you are delusional is that they say you don't have structure on the ground and you don't win any political office or political campaign either in America, in US, or in Europe, or in Nigeria without having structures on ground. So what do you have to say to that one?
Well, right now we have about 300 volunteers, from when we launched, right? So we do have some structure. However, the structure people are talking about are the traditional forms of structure that, they're used to, right?
You said
We
you
have
do have 300
volunteers in Nigeria.
on ground?
Yes.
Or you mean
My
in the,
campaign manager.
you know, on the internet or somewhere?
No, on ground in Nigeria. Yes. My campaign manager is in Nigeria. My entire family is part of my core team. So that's the thing. People see me in New York and they think I'm just here running stuff. No, there are things going on in the background that people don't know about. I mean, I tell people when you plant a seed, you put it in the ground first before it comes out, right? So that's where we are right now, in the ground. And making sure that our root system is solid enough so that when the tree starts to come out, it stands firm, it stands strong. Yeah, I do have a structure going on. We're in deliberations with a couple political parties. We've sort of narrowed it down to about 2 or 3. And our goal is we're going to revamp that entire thing. Like I said, I'm not doing politics like the Nigerian politician. I will never beat them at that, right? But they don't know what's coming for them. I'll just leave it at that.
Much more like Obama was saying, because they said he didn't have experience, he was too young, he was not a career politician like others, he was not into the game, party game and things like that, but he had the know-how, the technology of campaigns, and the grassroots reach out that is totally unique. And, the $1, $5, $10, movement and all those things, and it changed the face of American politics.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so you are saying that Nigerians should expect something they have not experienced before.
Exactly, that's my point.
Well, let me tell you another reason, another thing that makes people to say you are delusional. Sure. They say that in Nigeria, only money bags win elections. So the more money you have, the more chance you get. And I don't think you can compete with a lot of the people we have on ground right now with the amount of money they have, because all the money bags are in PDP or APC. What do you have to say to that?
Now, don't forget as well that when Obama started, Obama ran against who? Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
Right? Who was literally the everything that the Democratic Party was, that was Hillary. Guess why? Because right before Obama was George Bush, or right before George Bush was Hillary as a first lady for 8 years. In fact, she was also a senator at the time. Now, with me, I tell people, yeah, you can look at the insurmountable challenge. I see right through it. Yeah, bring your money. We tell our volunteers, when they give you the money, take it. It's your money that has been stolen, right? But remember this. After you take that, if you go vote the same people, that means you're going to wait another 4 years before you can think of another, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 to put food on your table. But you can actually take that money, because it's yours, and go vote your conscience, vote the future of your children. And I know it's going to be a lot more than that, but I also cannot expose all of my strategies, right now. Otherwise, it becomes, we water it down. But trust and believe that we have our processes that will match up. We don't need to have all the money. David only needed 5 stones and a sling to go after Goliath. I'll leave you with that.
Beautiful. I like your faith and confidence. But now, let me ask you a question. What is your picture of Nigeria when you become the president of Nigeria in the next 10 years after you assume the leadership of Nigeria? What is Nigeria going to become like? What is Nigeria going to look like? What is your dream, your aspiration, your dream, the ideal Nigeria that you have in your mind? Okay,
so I hope to be here another 50 years, right? So the plan that we're working on now is a 50-year plan,
okay,
right? Because I will be 85 then, hopefully still around.
Yes.
Now, in 10 years, which is 2 years after my my 2 tenures, I see a Nigeria, an innovative Nigeria actually powered by, proud citizens, who have equal access, to security, to wealth, to happiness, to peace, to love. And how do we achieve that? I say my campaign I hate to call it a campaign, I call it a journey or movement. Is pillared on three things: tech, education, and entrepreneurship. And I explained why in the CNN video. As education teaches us about our problems and how to find the right solutions. Technology amplifies the solutions and advancements, for us. And entrepreneurship teaches us to monetize them, right? For us and for the world. Now, these three things are anchored on our four solution plan. One, feed the people, because you understand that you can do everything you want to do, but if the populace are not fed, you've missed it, period, right? So we're going to feed the people, and I can talk about that, go into detail a little bit more. And after that, we invest in their well-being. Investing in their well-being is making sure that all of the things which a lot of my, a lot of the other candidates are running are sort of focused on, the education, the infrastructure, the security, the power, the environment, all of that. That's all about the well-being of the Nigerian. Right? We're investing in those things to make sure that we can raise the quality of life of our people. And then we invest in their ideas. Entrepreneurship. I tell people I spent 5 years studying biomedical engineering, and nobody taught me how to monetize that skill set, right? So that was the one thing that was missing from my educational experience. Now, I tell education, they say, creates opportunities. Entrepreneurship does the same, right? I did a TED talk where I looked at the side hustle. But what I did with that was look at the critical outcomes of education and entrepreneurship, and you really realize that they're pretty much intertwined. Now, if you're able to marry education and entrepreneurship, you create walls and walls of opportunities for yourself and for the people around you. You teach people to become creators as opposed to consumers, and that's how a nation builds wealth. Right, so entrepreneurship will embed from primary school. I need you to know how to go sell lemonade on the street, or sell maybe not lemonade but orange and mango and odara and all that stuff, right? As a young child, because once you develop that entrepreneurial mindset, whether you're going to work for someone or you're starting your own business, you're better equipped to make sure that the outcomes of your investments are much better. So we're investing in their ideas, and then we invest in the future. Like I said, I believe I'm going to be here 50 years from now. I need to know that the foundation that I lay now is strong enough to hold Nigeria 50 years from now when I will be 85. So I want to invest in innovation. I want to invest in technologies that puts Nigeria at the forefront of leading the world for some of these new innovations, blockchain, AI, Internet of Things, big data. All of that, cybersecurity. Why not us? We don't always have to follow. We don't always have to play catch up after the rest of the world have, gone on, moved on to space. Then we start to think about, building our own cars. No. So that's the Nigeria I see, a holistic approach to making sure that Nigeria is not just strong, is not just powerful, but it understands the heartbeat of her people. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but I will actually like to challenge you to become a bit more concrete in the assessment of where Nigeria will be in the next 10 years. For example, where do you see Nigeria's GDP in the next 10 years? Right now, Nigeria is number 26 economically in the world. Where will be? Do you think Nigeria could be in the next, let's say in the next 50 years? Do you think Nigeria will be in the top 10? Do you think Nigeria will be having what kind of GDP in comparison to America, for example? Do you think Nigeria, what place would Nigeria be in relations to Africa, for example? Yes.
Number one. That's my goal.
Number one in Africa or in where?
In the world.
You will need that I will need some explanation, sir.
Okay, let's break it down, right? So here's the thing. There have been 3 industrial revolutions: steam from the 1800s, electricity and scientific research, from the 1900s. And then the digital economy that we sort of are in now, and going into the 4th one. Now, if you look at all 3, Africa still lags behind because we have not, found the right leaders who understand the importance of those, right? Now, One thing that I know we know how to do well is we know how to leapfrog technologies. Nigeria completely skipped the entire analog system and went from that to GSM, right? With cell phones. The internet penetration or mobile penetration in Nigeria is really, really high. There's no stopping us. Like I said, when you look at the diaspora, Nigerians are one of the most intelligent people. In America, they're the most educated group because we have the opportunity to activate the potential that we have. Now imagine 200 million people with that access and what they can do.
But 50% of those people are even not literate.
That's why I said imagine what it could be, which means we need to move them from being illiterate to literate, and I'll tell you how. Now, even the Western educational system today, everyone complains is, is outdated, or archaic almost. What we need to do is explore the right ways to educate our kids. My last research, which I called edu-engageology, is trying to dive into understanding what makes people learn, right? How do people pick interest, right? So there are 4 things that make us pick an interest in something or triggers interest. There's benefits, if there's rewards or incentive. If I tell you, okay, if you come first in class today, I'll give you $1,000 or something, you will see that every Nigerian child will go come first in class, or at least would do their best to do that. There's consequence. Like for some of us, when we're young, who got beat for not coming first in class because everybody's supposed to have the same intellectual capacity, you had reason to study to make sure you succeed. There's repetition, right? When you hear something over and over and over again, it sticks. I tell people there are certain songs, sometimes they come out, you hate them, but then you hear them on the radio over and over and over again, and before you know it, you're singing the song, right? That's that. And then there's connection, emotional connection. When you're connected to something, if you have, God forbid, someone who you lose to cancer, then it makes you become interested in making sure that you can solve that problem, right? You get invested in that. So if we use these 4 things, these 4 triggers to redefine or reshape our educational system and bring in technologies, for instance, virtual reality, augmented reality, in enhancing the way our children learn, there would be no holding back. Finland is #1 today, not because they're following the traditional system of education, but because they have learned they've learned what it means to engage their children and how to empower them while they do that. So that's what we need to do. There are several ways people can get educated, vocationally, through entrepreneurship, through incentives, through exchange programs, through engaging other people in teaching what they've learned, knowledge-based systems as well. So yeah, there's several things we can look at and implement in developing the way we learn. We all know education is important. I've also talked about entrepreneurship. If you empower people, 200 million Nigerians, a good 120, 130 million of them were empowered through businesses, through entrepreneurship. The sky becomes our starting point, and that's what I tell people. I don't see the sky as a limit. That becomes our starting point. So when I say I see us as #1, with all of the problems we have, the lack of power, the lack of resources, the lack of infrastructure, the lack of security, with all of the problems we have, we're at number 26. Imagine where we would be if we didn't have these problems. 55% of Nigeria's population have no power, yet we're at number 26. 87 million Nigerians plus live in extreme poverty, yet we are number 26. Think about the possibilities.
From what you have said so far, I understand that you want to generate income for Nigeria through technology, the 4th industrial revolution, and through entrepreneurship. Do you believe that Nigeria right now is a poor country, and that is why most of our people are living on less than $2 a day? So to generate, what kind of what kind of products or what kind of industry or companies do we have to build to make technology and IT generate that kind of, because if you look at that kind of income, that kind of revenue, because if you look at the economy of the leading companies in the world, they don't just depend on, even Japan doesn't just depend on technology. Even US is not just depending on technology. They have automobiles, they have agriculture, they have, real estate, all kind of areas. But when you talk, your emphasis on technology, how much technology do we have to generate to have enough money to be able to compete with Germany, with their automobile industry, with their mechanism, their machinery, and all those things?
Okay, so let me clarify. When I say education, entrepreneurship, and technology are the pillars, right? All of these industries you've talked about, the automotive, all of that, it's anchored on that, which means we need to teach our people to know how to do stuff, right? Technology helps them to amplify those solutions. Entrepreneurship helps us to monetize them, right? So for all of the industries you've mentioned, they all are built on top of these three foundations. Now, when you talk about poverty, now I tell people, and this a lot of people may not agree with, but here's the thing: sometimes you have to make the hard decisions, and I had to learn that as a leader. Now, there's several ways we're going to raise money.
Let's be playing one of his videos. Time there on, I think about it. Let's play one of his videos while we are waiting for him to come back. We'll get him back definitely, because he's saying some very interesting and very powerful stuff right now. But let's see if we could see one of the videos to show you what he's telling, what he's saying. Yeah, so it's very interesting young man, very interesting young man, very enterprising and yeah, very creative. Good idea, good job. Zvuk, dайте him. Needs this, Atam knows with you.
Every day, we read about Nigerians in the diaspora breaking records. Tech, in education, in medicine, sports, and entertainment. Time and time again, Nigerians have shown that given the right environment, a nurturing environment, the potential is quite frankly limitless. Mark Essien, founder of Hotels.ag, the first online hotel booking platform in Nigeria. Olurotimi Badara, the first and only cardiologist in the world. And then you have Chinemelu Eze, the genius building a smart wheelchair. These are Nigerians who have shown that innovation, technology, and education are the future. Our future. Then you have Land Factory Nigeria, the first software development training agency in Southeast Nigeria, of which I'm a board member and founded by Chibueze, my brother. Land Factory discovers and grooms software developers and craftsmen. Meet Nonson, an 11-year-old primary 5 student who was able to simulate an airport after 3 days of coding at Land Factory. I saw the same passion and hustle and hunger that drive these brilliant minds in the eyes of more than 2,500 Nigerian youths when we launched our entrepreneurship education scholarship fund. Imagine a Nigeria where everyone can just amazing. In Nigeria that can sustain and nurture its people. In Nigeria where creativity and excellence is encouraged. In Nigeria driving innovation. I have had the honor witnessing the possibilities of the people when the right leader is present. And in the age of artificial intelligence and digital technology, the last thing we need is an analog system. It is time for someone who sees the future of this great nation and can pilot her to her dreams. Someone who is young, who's confident, with character, vibrant, and a visionary. I am Chike Ukaegbu. I'm running for the seat of the president. Okay. I'm on.
Hello, guys. So that is one of the videos from Chike that we just showed to you. but I'm sure we'll get him back right now. I'm sure he should be there.
Right here in New York. He says technology, education, and entrepreneurship can be
like
the
to bring him back so that
to
he
unlock
continue his
Nigeria's
thoughts.
potential. Here's a clip from a TED talk he gave.
So, you know, very good, innovative ideas this young Nigerian is having, and I think we need to listen to him, and I think Nigeria needs to hear him. We need as much, it needs as much exposure as possible, and I think if Nigerians will hear him, that should be able to, you know, who knows? He spoke about David. He spoke about David. Who knows? Maybe this will be the David that will pull down Goliath. And great ideas, so we'll have to see. Especially bearing in mind that 70% of Nigerian voters are the young men. The population of Nigeria, actually, 70 or 75% is young people. So, you know, why not? This could be the guy that will turn the table. It's just a pity that they don't know him yet in Nigeria. But he says that in Nigeria that he has people on the ground and he's going there next month. So we hope Nigeria will be able to hear him. Okay, we got him back. Hello, Chike.
Hello. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened.
Yes, we don't have an idea too, but thank God you're back. So will you tell us, you just started telling us some things. Please continue your thoughts.
Yes, so I was saying, to solve our problems, right, I looked at our budget for 2018, which was $28.78 billion, right?
Yes.
For a nation of 200 million people. Now, when you look at South Africa, whose budget was 116 billion for 53 million people, and you look at Brazil, whose 2017 budget was $462 billion for 205 million people, 5 million more than Nigeria, then you start to understand our problem, right? We are not allocating enough to what needs to be done.
No, it's not about allocation, sir. I think it's about generation.
Right. Well, so it's both, right? So I'd say Nigeria is like a sick child, a dying child right now. Any parent who has a child who is sick is not thinking about how much it's going to cost them for that child's well-being. They want to get that child to be well first. And then we can figure out how to fix our problem, how to pay up the bills. So the stage where Nigeria is in now is exactly that. Now, I've thought about what ways can we generate revenue to make our nation, to move our nation forward. And I came up with a few of them. One, when I talked about feed the people, the goal of feeding the people is actually to be able to collect data, right? Because when you collect data, you can now increase your tax base. Right now, only about 9% of Nigerians.
Yes, we're hearing you, sir.
Okay. Only about 9% of Nigerians pay income tax. We need to increase that. Actually 11% pay income tax. Only about 9% of our corporations pay taxes. We need to increase that. Move from 9% to 50, 60%. If we have half the population paying taxes, we can at least maintain some of the infrastructure that we'll borrow money for. That's one. Two, sell licenses, right? We have so much mineral resources. Sell licenses to have people come in and tap them. That will benefit the nation. Three, export, import and export. We need to amplify our manufacturing so that we can make more money from exporting than what we spend importing stuff. Four, I will completely cut our recurrent expenditure by more than 50%. So 50% of our current federal, government employees, send them into the public sector. Right? People say how? Well, this is what we will do. We'll offer people early retirement plans. Say, listen, go start a business, something. We'll actually even fund some of the ideas you come up with, because in the long run, it saves us money, making sure that 50, 60% of you people who are dependent upon, recurring expenditure are in the workforce or are in the private sector generating money and generating stuff for the nation. So that's in fact, that one is one of the main problems we have. We spend too much money paying people who are not producing what we're paying them for, right? So automate some of those processes, teach them, equip them, skills training to learn how to create instead of, producing stuff that is not useful to the nation. So that's one way. The other thing we'll do is, like nations do in the US, they sell EB-5s, right? You have $500,000, you can buy permanent residency. We need to do that. But I mean, we'll have to fix our security systems and infrastructure so that when we ask people to buy residency in Nigeria to come develop stuff, they will be interested in doing that. We need to be able to attract people in diaspora back home because, one, they understand what it means to pay taxes because they pay them outside, and two, they can help in the development of our nation. So those sell bonds, privatize stuff, but privatize making sure that we take care of some of those things that increase or that support corruption in our system, right? So feed people for cops, law enforcement agents, give them reason to be proud of what they do. That way, you can scapegoat people who decide to retain corruption as a practice and help to curb some of these practices at home. So there are several ways, there are a few other ways I haven't talked about that I hope that will generate income. But in the interim, we need to borrow money to do some of the things we need to do and do it ASAP to get our nation moving forward.
Yes, one of the, you have spoken about Nigeria, if your plan and your vision for Nigeria in the next 50 years. But people are impatient in Nigeria right now. And if you talk to Nigerians, you know that they are impatient. They want a miracle right now. The problem they're having with this president is because it's not performing in the shortest period of time. Now, so what I'm thinking, what I want to ask you now is that in the shortest space of time, otherwise you might not even get elected. The frustration will keep on increasing. So how long do Nigerians need to wait before they begin to see the first dividends of a changed government or your leadership?
Okay, so two things. In the first 100 days, there are three things I want to do, right? Like I said, the stimulus plan, feed the people, right? And that is just saying, listen, your government is sorry for all of the crimes the last 58 years have brought. Here's money, feed your family, eat, and survive, right? That's the first thing I'm going to do. The next thing will be power. I'm currently talking to GE right now. GE has some hydro plants that actually they've applied in Egypt and Algeria and Tunisia and a couple other countries to increase power generation. Power is extremely, extremely important for commerce, for businesses and all that. Give our nation power, increase the quality of power that we have so that people can run businesses, so that people are not spending so much in generators and gas and fuel or whatever it is, right? So diversify, deregulate a lot of stuff, and regulations stifle innovation. So find the ones that are serious, that are useful to building and growing business and maintaining quality of life for our people. But the rest of them that create bottlenecks, just deregulate them, get rid of them. Decentralize, that's another thing. We need to give the states power to innovate. And then just supplement whatever it is they do. I want to be able to allocate $3 billion to each state for different projects and say, if you can raise the quality of power here, or for every new gigawatt of power you produce, we will subsidize by giving the state this amount of money. Same thing in education, same thing in several fields that will make the states start to race towards making sure they can get this federal allocation. That way you spur innovation, you spur competition, and it raises the quality of life for us. So first two things: one, feed the people; two, power; and then three, healthcare, education, and all the other stuff will start to trickle in and all that. But these are the things that I'm focused on right now, that I want to make sure that within the first 90 days, the first 3 months of taking the seat, June 12, 2019, that we can start to work on immediately.
How do you mentioned a little bit about corruption, but what is your strategy of combating corruption in the country?
So I tell people corruption is not our main problem, like many people will tell you. It's if you, I've given this example a couple of times. When you have a policeman who stands on the street and collects 10 naira in 120-degree temperature, you know that is not because he wants to be corrupt. That's because he has mouths to feed, right? So that sense of hopelessness I talked about that have triggered what I call a sense of survival amongst the people, desperate sense of survival, is what many of us tend to call corruption, right? So if you have policemen who are paid well, who are equipped well, who are trained well, and you take care of their children. I want to do that. I want to say, listen, your children will go to school for free, right? When we do institute health insurance, your families get free health care because you're putting your lives on the line every day to make sure that the nation is safe. Take care of them. Make them feel like we think about them just as much as they have to think about us. Make sure that policing happens at the community level. Once we're able to do that, you start to see that some of these things that are triggered from corrupt practices start to fade away, start to chip away. Now, when you make an example of certain people based on, okay, listen, we've given you everything you need to be fine, to be safe, to be, stable. If you still practice this, then there will be stiff repercussions for your actions. Then you see that the nation will start to. I tell people, Nigeria is a nation where a madman stands in the middle of the street and controls traffic. We're not all crazy, right? And corruption is everywhere. I mean, I live in a country where corruption is at the highest levels everywhere, right? So, but if we control it in the masses, right, we live in a constant state of survival, which triggers or makes a bunch of all these things happen. It becomes easier to curtail and start to curb, some of the outcomes of those things, of which corruption is one of them.
The police is one level of corruption, but we have higher level of corruption in Nigeria than the police. So let's hear how Chike would like to deal with that, because the corruption with the police is a major one, not as major as the corruption with the politicians, the corruption in the National Assembly, the corruption with the governors, the corruption with the people who are taking the security budget, or what they call it, security, I think budget they call it. I think they call it the security budget. Hello, Chike.
Yes, sir. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, we have only about 10 minutes more to go. So I wanted to say the corruption you described with the police, yes, it's a big issue. But why don't, I don't think that is the main corruption we are facing in Nigeria. The main corruption is with the politicians. Like, for example, look at the National Assembly. We have each one of them. We have about 500 or over 500, 400 in one chamber and 300 in another, about 700 of them. People taking in more money than the President of the United States. So, right. That kind of corruption, or even with the governors, nobody knows how much they get with their security votes and things like that. So, those kind of corruption is the main corruption we are talking about. It's not about the corruption of the policeman who cannot eat, but the ones who have too much. Will you please raise your head as well? We need to see your chest. Yeah, good.
Am I good right now?
Yeah, good.
Okay,
good.
Great.
Good.
So that's where we need to completely revamp our systems, right? In fact, you talk about governors. If you realize, you still have a lot of governors who complete their terms and then go into the Senate.
Yes.
So now they're taking pensions from their states, then they're vice governors or deputy governors, and then they're also taking this humongous amount of money from the nation. That's what I mean when I talk about, the recurrent expenditure. You're frozen again, I don't know why.
No, I'm here.
Okay, sorry. The recurrent expenditure, that's part of that, right? It's taking it to the people, saying, listen, you cannot, this is literally raping our nation, right? So if I'm going to cut down on whatever it is I'm supposed to take from bonuses and all of that, we have to collectively do that. And getting the people to say, listen, you have to do this or we vote you out, which is part of the reason why I've been telling more young people, run for office, run for office, run for office, because we need people who understand the importance of making sure that our nation is developed, not that put our nation first before self. And well, I'm hoping that from starting with the head, it starts to filter down. But if it doesn't, then you also use the masses to help people to do that. That's one. We also have to install, we have to strengthen our legal system, our judiciary, to make sure that, you know, the bribes and whatever people take are curbed, you know, by the law, in a correct manner. Then the EFCC, some of these anti-corruption organizations that we've set up, extremely important to make sure that they're independent of politicians. So in my opinion, every single sector needs to have a council that's comprised of 50% people from at home, 50% of people from the diaspora. And they will decide on all of the contracts that we assign out. They will manage those contracts, so that we start from some of those levels, the ministerial levels, the cabinet levels, and lower levels, to curb some of these practices. That will put pressure on our, you know, legislative to understand the importance of making sure that the nation is moving forward together. Because the truth is, we still have to work with them. So it's putting the pressure on the people to put pressure on them, and making sure that all the other levels that the presidency has power to control, that we do what we need to do to curtail corruption. I think it's not easy. It's part of the complexity that comes with leadership. But yes, we are ready to have those conversations and to take action when needed.
How do you plan to resolve the problem of insurgencies like Boko Haram, the militants in the Delta area, the headsmen?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so security.
Yes.
Security is extremely important. Now, with the insurgencies, one thing we're not doing is listening to them well, right? Let me use the Fulani herdsmen and the farmers as an example. And this is a solution you have not heard anywhere. Now, what I did was I sat back down and I asked myself questions. Why are the herdsmen encroaching on other people's lands? You realize that is the deforestation that is happening from the Sahara Desert, right? Okay. The question is, what do we need to do to reclaim that land? It's nothing new. Israel did it with Negev, where they completely reclaimed desert land that produces a lot of, you know, produce right now. So let's reclaim the land, you know, part of the Sahara that it has been encroaching and forcing them down. That's one. Two, we have the Sambisa forest. Sambisa forest spans 6 states: Bauchi, Gombe, Zamfara, Nasarawa, Yobe, and I don't remember the last one, right? That's a forest that we can carve out a part of and create world-class ranches for these nomads, while we reclaim the land that's being taken away by deforestation, right? But it's sitting down to have conversations and letting the nomads know, you guys are also farmers. These are 2 farmers. One is just livestock, one is crop, right? It's understanding that they both need to make a livelihood. They're all both fighting for survival, right? So how do we make sure that everyone feels like they are being heard? Our government has not done that and have not postulated real theories or real solutions to these problems, because they don't understand it. So if we use afforestation to reclaim some of the land that is going away by the Sahara, we take these nomads and we teach them. We arm them with technology that will better their produce. I mean, we have wearables that animals wear that could tell you as much as when they're sick, when they're, you know, not feeding well or not sleeping well, where they are at every point in time, when they're pregnant, even sometimes before they know. So things that would amplify the quality of produce for them. It makes the farmer, the nomad, feel like you're thinking about them. You give them land for their animals to graze on, and then you help the farmers as well, the crop farmers. Do the same thing with them. Education, once again, is extremely important. Technology is extremely important here. And the entrepreneurship to be able to sell their products, or the better products they provide, is also extremely important. So this is not, the problem is not as complex as it presents itself. We just don't have leaders that can sit down and process and think through stuff and dialogue to know how to solve some of these problems. Same thing with the Niger Delta. We can do the same thing there. Their problem is Niger Delta produces the oil for Nigeria, the most oil for Nigeria. Yet their lands are polluted, their air is polluted. They pretty much are suffering. They have nothing to live off of, and they see nothing from the outcomes of their land. So how do we make sure that we can stop all these things? How do we hold people accountable for doing this life-altering practices on their land? The oil spills, people need to be held accountable to clean it up, to invest in the community, to teach them, so make them feel like they belong, make them feel like they're heard. We don't listen to our people, and that's a big problem.
Okay. Now, there is, I've been interacting with a number of candidates, especially the new generation presidential candidates. Okay. And I just got a request today from one of these candidates requesting me to help talk to all the other candidates about the possibility of being united, merging together, and coming together to join forces to win or overthrow the leadership of the ruling party, APC and PDP, so that all the new voices could come together and support one another, and then, talk about merging their forces together to be able to present one candidate, and any other person that is stronger in whatever question will occupy that particular position. So what will your attitude be in terms of coming together with other forces to work together with other candidates?
Like I said, we talked about individualism and unity, right? So our collective goal, if it's ambitious, I'm not interested, right? So if people are in it because they just want to become the president, I'm not interested in that, right? But if we're sitting down to talk about how we can actually move Nigeria forward, as long as you understand the heartbeat of what we're presenting. And like I said, it's not, in this case now, it's not just about Nigeria, it's about Africa, it's about the globe. If we can come together and we find common ground, then why not? After all, at the end of the day, what we are all fighting for is to better the lives of our people. So yeah, I'll have a conversation, about it.
Good. Thank you. Now, what would you like to say? We have just about 1 to 2 minutes more to go. What would you like to say to our audience before we go?
Okay, so 2 things. There was something I really wanted to mention, and I said that you would be the right person to tell this to, right? When I started to run, and my family, they call me the man of faith, right? I'm not really the prophetic one. I'm the one who exercises faith. There were 2 things that the Lord exposed me to. The first one was understanding that first slave ship that left, Nigeria or left Africa, Western Africa, arrived in the U.S., North America, 1619. Next year will be exactly 400 years. Right. Now, when I looked back a little bit, this came up a whole different, on another day. I realized that the first slave ship actually in the Americas, in this case, South America, left in 1564. The name of that ship was called Jesus.
Wow.
Yes, Jesus of Lubeck. And in fact, one of the most prominent structures in Lubeck today is the Hospital of the Holy Spirit, right? Now, the message, the revelation at the time was...
Lubeck, where is Lubeck?
In Germany.
Okay.
Yeah. It's time for our people here to go home. And the word came, it was tell Nigerians to prepare the land. And for Christian leaders or for leaders outside to prepare the people for the mass exodus that's going to happen. And here's why.
You're talking about just Africans or all people of black races?
That was the message I got, period. But I associated it with people of African descent, yes. And that's because when I started to look into history to understand, it says this word was important during the Civil Rights Movement. This was in 1960, when we got our independence. When you look at history, between 1955 and 1965, I want to say, 43 African nations got their independence. And when I asked the Lord, so 1964 would have been exactly 400 years, right? The message that came out was the colonial masters left the continent, but the continent was not ready for her children to return. So Martin Luther King was right for the time, but the people did not get the vision of returning home. Their work outside is done. So next year will be exactly 400 years of we going into North America. Now is the time. Now, for sometimes people are like, well, why are you running da 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 da? And I have my reasons, which I did elaborate on. But more importantly, the spiritual part of it, because some of the strife we go through back home, the Christian versus Muslim, we're all one. We are all one. And I think we've done the work we needed to do outside. It's time for us to go home to fix our land. So whatever message you have for your people, let it be that. If they leave with nothing from this, let it be this. For those outside, or for leaders outside, prepare the people, and for those at home, prepare the land. And we will be shortchanging ourselves if we miss out on this move of God in the globe.
Beautiful. Chike, you've done a good job. I'm sure a lot of people, we have released your contact and how people could get in touch with you. We all put that on the air already. So I'm sure a lot of people will be looking for you now, or to talk to you or get in touch with you. You did a good job today. And even me, myself, I'm believing in your vision already. And thank you for coming on to be with us. And good luck in your race.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Hopefully I can come back on your show as a president.
Okay, that would be great. That would be great. Thank you, sir. God bless.
Thank you. Yes, bless you too. Bye.
He wants to come back as a president.